Sheldon, we're back at it with Champs vs. Stars, full on into this season now. Episode 2 of Champs vs. Stars.
Yeah.
We just said it off air, but what did you think?
I enjoyed it. I'm here for Champs vs. Stars. I mean, it's not quite like the normal challenge season, obviously, but as we kind of alluded to last week, there's enough characters, there's enough personalities, let's say, for me to be excited early on in a challenge season, just like I would be for the normal, let's say, Vendetta season or 30-30. Am I as hype as those seasons? No. But there's enough here to keep me interested. There's enough different personalities and storylines here to keep me interested. I like it. I'm here. And the other thing about it too, sorry to cut you off, but I'm going to lose my thought.
No, you go right ahead.
The other thing about it too is it's not just all centered on the star side. If you think about it, most of the drama, for lack of a better term, or most of the personality or what we're learning, let's say, is all derived from the star side, which is cool because it's refreshing. You're getting to know new people.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I really like watching the stars discover the ins and outs of a sort of a watered-down challenge.
Yes.
But off the top, we should introduce ourselves. I'm John Chidley Hill.
And I am Sheldon Alexander.
And this is You Killed It, the podcast about the challenge. And as we just said, we're talking about Champs vs. Stars 2. This is season 2 of Champs vs. Stars.
Episode 2.
Episode 2? Right off the top, we basically pick up where we left off with last week's episode, where Brooke Hogan is chasing after Selita after Kayla used the curse word, I guess, at her. When they showed the replay, I'm like, I guess she swore at her rather than, like, in her presence. Mm-hmm. But they had to try to settle things down, and it sort of speaks to, I think, the ongoing tensions between the stars and the champs. And I say that because we have this little conversation in one of the hallways of the hotel that they're all staying in, where Brooke and Selita are talking about how they don't have to put up with that kind of language or treatment. And Brooke Hogan is talking about, like, auras, like, just keep your white light around you, which, you know, to each their own in terms of beliefs. Mm-hmm. But what struck me was, like, man, that was the most mild friction I've ever seen on a challenge, and already these two are, like, having to refocus and talk about, like, how, you know, in their life they're not going to let Kayla get into her head. Selita's not going to let Kayla get into her head. She's already there if you had to run into the hallway. What did you think of all this?
First off, I like how Brooke referred to Kayla as a paper tiger because she's all talk.
Yes.
I thought that was kind of interesting. But going back to, I kind of alluded to this last week, right? And things are testy. And, you know, yeah, Selita, like, I'm interested. It sounds like my question I wrote down for you was, is Selita overreacting, or does she have a right to be mad? And it sounds like you think that she's overreacting. Am I right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think she should be annoyed.
Okay.
Like, I think I'd be like, this Kayla girl is coming on too strong. Mm-hmm. I don't like her manners. But it's at the point where, if I were in Selita's shoes, I'd just be keeping it, like, internal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Fair.
It'd just be, like, a little note. Like, oh, I don't like this person. Life goes on.
Yeah, I think there's two sides to this of what's going on right now, right? I think the stars come on this show, and they know that it's a reality show. They know that it's a competition. But I still don't think they fully grasp what they're getting into. And I think what ends up happening as they learn very quickly, not only from how the eliminations happen, but also now we see the interactions, I think very quickly they realize and their backs get up against the wall because they feel like, are the champs trying to punk me right now? Like, am I trying to get, like, I was coming on a competition. I wasn't coming to get punked off, you know, or get dissed or be made a fool of on camera on this reality show. So whether or not that's actually happening or not, I think it's perception, right? And if the perception is that someone's trying to like get over on me, I'm not really going to have that. So I think she was kind of removing herself from that situation, right? And different people handle things in different ways, but I'm a firm believer, John, that like, I don't think anyone gets to tell someone else how they can react in a certain situation, right? So if you feel like you're offended, or if you have a line where it's like, hey, this is how I talk to people, and this is how I expect people to talk to me, and once someone else crosses that line, like, Kayla doesn't get to say, oh my God, why is she so mad just because I swore? Like, you don't get to tell someone else what they get to be offended by, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I hope the one exemption is that if you have a podcast about a reality TV show, you can second guess how people react on that.
For sure.
That's okay, though, right?
For sure. But I mean, hey, anything that we say here, I'm not going to tell anyone they can't be offended by it, right? Be offended.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's fair.
One person I'm not offended by is Hennessy. We're starting to get a theme here from Hennessy, and I found it kind of funny. If you paid attention to the trailer, it looks like things kind of take a left turn, but for now, in this episode, it's still all fun and games with Hennessy, right? We start out and everyone's kind of working out. The blue team or the stars are working out. And she's drinking wine. She's eating snacks. Yeah. She's just having a good time. And Louise is trying to make her, like, get her mind in the game, I guess, because it's a girls' elimination week. And the blue team, led by Louise, but I think the stars team, more importantly, is starting to realize, hey, we need to pay attention to what's going on, or else they're just going to try to pick us off, because it's still champs versus stars, despite the fact that we're on the same team as these people. Your early takes on Hennessy, though.
I mean, she's funny on TV, but man, I would get sick of her in a hurry.
Yeah.
Right, and like you could see it a little later in the episode. Mm-hmm. Where they're having like the votes as to who should go into elimination, and you could already see people like laughing because like they can't believe she's still going, but also like okay, like please stop.
Yeah,
like both during the deliberation amongst the blue team and also when they're actually voting, you could see it on their faces where they're like, oh, okay, just please stop talking.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to kind of watch her, but you're right. I feel like the act could wear thin, especially like we're watching an hour television show, but imagine how long it takes to film that hour-long television show. And so if you're around that person and the same laugh and the same kind of hitting the same notes for your jokes I didn't even mean to rhyme that, but...
You're a poet and you didn't even know it.
Something like that, right? But imagine like being around someone like that for an entire day, for multiple days in a row. I see how that could wear thin. But
oh yeah, and like they have to like take the bus to where they're doing the competition, and like they're all on the bus together, mm-hmm. and like it would be just constant.
Yeah, a lot of downtime. And maybe if people are getting annoyed with Hennessy early, it didn't really look like Killa Cam and Boobie Gibson were annoyed with each other, as it seemed like there were some sparks flying.
Sir.
And you know what the funny thing was? Like, it really did seem that they had the googly eyes for each other. But I was so interested in the fact that Wes was just there, kind of like egging it on. Like, I don't know, it just seemed really funny to me, Wes's role in this whole thing, as he was just watching these two beautiful people kind of acknowledge their mutual likings. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but, there's something going down there for sure.
Well, first of all, if you want to have someone like co-sign on your budding relationship, obviously you just want the groundwork laid in front of Weston Bergman. Second of all, I love how there's this moment where he toasts them and he's like, "This is beautiful to see." Long pause. Our team coming together. But he definitely like hung it out there. Yeah, awkward scene in its way, but also hilarious. Like, I loved it. I really liked that they, I don't want to say consummated, but yeah, confirmed each other's likes.
Yeah.
in front of Wes.
It was funny.
Who's basically like an officiant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so funny, too, because I talk about it all the time, right? And just the role that the champs always play just because they're used to the confessionals. And so Wes coming in and he's just kind of like, I think at one point he says, I can see the way that Cam's looking at Booby, but who can blame her? He's it's a good looking man right there, right? Like,
yeah.
It's really funny to see just how, because so much of this show, right? Because there's so little, like, there's no club, there's no like going out and partying, there's very little like drunken pool scenes or anything like that. So much of it has to be driven by, oh, well, here's a conversation, but now here's someone in a confessional describing this conversation. You know what I mean? So you need people to sort of play roles or like move along storylines. And it's fun. We talk about it all the time when we have these series and Wes is back, because you get people like Wes and even CT, even though we've seen very little of CT so far. But normally, right, you get these people that are used to getting into that confessional stance, let's say, and they know the role they need to play in that. And I just thought that was really funny to see that budding romance, but it didn't really last long. But we'll get to that. That. Let's get to the challenge, the actual challenge that took part in that episode. It basically was a life-size version of shuffleboard, right?
Yeah.
What did you think of this challenge, first off? Did you?
I loved it. I was totally into it because to me, Champs vs. Stars is supposed to be like less dangerous, a little goofier, a little more fun than the actual challenge, which is like you have to swim underwater for 600 meters and like you could die, right? Like it is supposed to be toned down.
Yeah.
A little more like summer camp.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I thought, I like the bright colors. We gotta talk though. You think that by now Tony would know that if you're gonna cheat on the challenge, you're gonna get caught.
Yeah, I mean,
see, that's a little double entendre there.
Yeah, no, I got you. No, I know what you were doing there. I was picking up what you were putting down. Don't worry,
Sheldon. I had that locked and loaded for like the past hour. I was so excited.
I mean, I enjoyed this challenge because I thought it looked fun. You know, it was one of those things where I really enjoyed the challenge when you can tell people are figuring out the strategy as they go along, right? So I thought that was kind of funny to watch and see how that all played out. I mean, there was a part where I think it was CT was used as a big wrecking ball and kind of just like push the entire pile up to where you would get to the 3. But I guess the most
story of his life.
Pushing the pile, right? Just pushing the pile. But it was funny because midway through I was watching it and I was like, oh, what would the strategy be? And then I don't know anything about curling, but I do know that at one point when you have pieces or rocks, stones, in proper places, you then have guards, right? And so I realized, oh, okay, this kind of makes sense. How you'd want to have it kind of, far away, but knock off the line where your other pieces could be knocked off, if that makes sense. So I feel like that was kind of interesting. And I think they kind of stumbled into that strategy. I don't think it was planned out, but no. I think it worked. It worked in terms of like a visual challenge. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I was surprised to see, I mean, Lil Mama got it, that the key is to lean back. Like, if you don't, like, you can shift your weight around on your stone to try to throw off the momentum of whoever's sliding in. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or, like, once you're hit, then if you lean back, you're not going to go as far, that sort of thing. And only Lil Mama seemed to really understand how that worked, but
yeah, it was funny to watch because no one really got into the wave of, even when you're being pushed on the rock, no one was like leaning forward or anything like that. Really, they're kind of sitting upright, and at certain points it was funny because you could tell, like, I don't know how they decided who was going to push and who was going to be sitting down. There are certain ones where it was like there's no chance that this person is pushing, right?
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like they didn't have the weight of people sorted out, and then it ended up being kind of random. But yeah, as I said, it was kind of funny to watch. I enjoyed it. I think the hijinks of Hennessy made it a little funnier, just because she's obviously a personality, and at one point when she was about to fall off, she kind of just got. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, no, she was about to fall off, and instead she just got off and ran back down the platform because she didn't want to get into the water and ruin her hair. I thought that was funny.
Yep.
I thought that was funny. It was good.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoyed this challenge. I know I keep saying that, but it's simple, right? So it's not like there's anything really to break down here. I thought it was just simply done. Tony tried to cheat, which is kind of dumb because, I mean, obviously there's cameras and you're going to get caught, as you alluded to already.
Yep.
But, yeah, solid challenge. Tori is rattled by Drake. And every time I say Drake, I feel like I should say Drake Bell, right? That's his name?
Yeah. I feel like with both Drake Bell and Brooke Hogan, I'm going to always say their full name.
That's fair.
When she was talking about Drake, it made me realize something that I feel like that we have to ask every season of Champs versus Pros or Champs versus Stars. Mm-hmm. Who do you think the most famous person is on this show? Because, like, she's starstruck by Drake Bell, and maybe this is, like, our Canadian perspective, I don't feel like he's the most famous person. Do you? Who do you think the most famous person is on this season?
I don't think he's the most famous person to us. Person to us, but I feel like to another demographic, maybe a younger demographic and maybe an American demographic, I think he might win. I think he might win that, but I mean, to me, the people that I know the most would have been Arian Foster and Brooke Hogan, I think. Would have been the two people that I would have known the most. Lil Mama, like, I know who she is, but it's not because, like, I expect masses of people to know who Lil Mama is.
No, I think The Miz is actually the most famous person.
Yeah. No, that's definitely
like, I'd say The Miz is more famous than Arian Foster. Which is weird, because, like, last season, Terrell Owens, hands down, the most famous person.
Yes.
On the show.
Yep.
Like, hands down. And the season before that, it was probably CM Punk.
Interesting, yeah.
But I might be biased because I'm a wrestling fan. But The Miz has crossover appeal, right? Like, he was on The Real World.
Yeah, I feel like...
He's been in movies. He's was on several seasons of The Challenge. Like,
no, I definitely agree with that. I think The Miz is very well known and crosses over a lot to a lot of different avenues for sure, right? Because obviously, as you said, he has a reality TV world. He has a wrestling world. Yeah, like, he's a person that people know for sure. And he's on MTV a lot as well, right? So I think definitely The Miz... And again, we talked about this before, right? Like, I think he does a good job in hosting. Like, he has enough personality. I think he adds something to the hosting role, right? Remember, it was Victor Cruz that hosted the first season, right?
Yeah, Victor Cruz was not...
And I think...
He was fine. He just seemed like he was a little amateur. Like, he was still figuring it out.
Exactly. Whereas, obviously, The Miz, you're a performer, right? Like, going out and having to do a full wrestling bit compared to having to stand and do an intro for a shuffleboard challenge, right? Like, of course he's going to be able to do that. So it's a lot of fun in that sense. But as I said, right, like, even if we're not talking about people who are famous on their own, they have very famous relationships.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this show work, I think, to me anyways.
Yeah, I think so.
Because as I said, right, I think the stars are the way more interesting part of this season, a lot more than the champs, especially because I feel like we're only seeing Wes. I mean, I guess we saw Cam a bit in this episode as well, right? Wes, Cam, Ashley, and then I guess a Kayla thing happened. But other than that, like, CT hasn't really said much. Tony hasn't really been Tony time yet, right? Like, he's kind of quiet for the most part. I mean, we're not really seeing that
Yeah.
much from a lot of people yet. I feel like all the drama is on the star side.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's, as I was saying, like, earlier on, I really think that we're seeing the stars learn how tough this is mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at one point, Booby said, oh, man, like, this is, like, everyone's out to get you. Or, no, sorry, it wasn't him who said it. Someone said of Selita and Kayla, like, oh, it's going to be hard to play, I guess as Brooke said, of Selita and Kayla, oh, it's going to be hard to play this game with someone, like, on your team who wants to destroy you. I'm like, yeah, that's the challenge. That's every season. That's every episode. That's...
Yeah.
And, like, you are more isolated on an actual season of the challenge.
Yeah.
Like, it is actually worse.
One thing that doesn't change from season to season on the challenge, though, is just a cast of beautiful people. I thought it was really funny when Selita ends up in the water and then she gets out of the water and everyone was just like, oh, she looked like a Bond girl, right? Like, I thought that was really funny that everyone, the entire cast, was kind of mesmerized at the same time. I thought that was really funny.
Even Shane was mesmerized, and Selita is not the kind of person he's interested in, but he was like they showed him and like he was agog.
Yeah, that was very funny. I enjoyed that a lot. But the red team ends up winning, right? And now this is where the game really takes place, right? Because
the real game.
Yes. So the red team is having their meeting where they have to decide who is the MVP. And I mean, really, it becomes a numbers game because on the star side, they only have 4 people. And on the champ side, they have 5. So the champs already have this wrapped up where they know they're going to make it Ashley and they're going to try to throw in one of their stronger female competitors. But that didn't stop the stars from getting a little upset, right? Because first off, Lil Mama and Selita aren't there for the actual vote, which is not a good look, however you want to cut it. But
yeah, it's their fault.
Yeah, it's their fault for not being there. But even if you're gonna rig it, right, and you already know what you're gonna do, at least pretend, right? Like I think like you could at least pretend and make it seem like, hey, we're gonna make this kind of fair and let you guys have a voice. But instead, you're just gonna like diss them, continue this whole thing of dissing them, right, and making it like, yeah, you guys don't really matter anyways. This is what we're doing. Whatever. You guys need to catch up. And so they end up essentially, and it was funny because Brooke wanted to be MVP and instead she ends up being voted as their least valuable player and heading into the elimination. What did you think?
That's life in the challenge house.
But
I mean, I think the strategy is sound. And it's funny to me that you see it like dawning on the the stars one by one what's happening. Like if Selita and Lil Mama like had fully assessed the situation, they'd be like, oh shit, I should be there for that vote.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas Brooke Hogan is like, we're about to get screwed here, guys. Like it's just funny. Like, and even earlier in this episode when they were working it with Hennessy, and they're like had a like intervention where it was Louise and Casper and I guess Booby, who is like sat Hennessy down there like, we're trying to get you to work out because the stars or the champs are going to try to put you in.
Yeah.
She's like, they are? Like I'm enjoying that like Louise is basically having to go around and explain in detail like what's happening.
The part I didn't understand though, right, from the red team's perspective is, okay, so we're gonna put in Brooke, and then we're gonna put in Brooke to try to take out Hennessy. Like that didn't really make sense to me, right? Although I don't really know like who was it on the blue team in terms of stars. It's Hennessy or
it was Louise.
Or Louise, yeah.
Louise.
So but then why would all their votes for on the other side, right? Why would the blue team stars, when they were picking, why would they be trying to put in Hennessy? If you know what I mean? Like Hennessy doesn't strike me as the strongest player. Isn't that Louise? So wouldn't the move have been to try to put in Louise?
I think they know that they wouldn't be able to convince the stars to put Louise in, but I think they could see that they're like, okay, we can get the numbers here by picking on Hennessy, who's like so crazy and not really good, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just she was the low hanging fruit.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So yeah, as we alluded to before, the blue team in their meeting, it's just Hennessy going crazy and not really realizing what's going on, and she pretty much nominates herself.
Storms off. Yeah,
Well, she
nominates herself and storms off.
But she nominates herself and then doesn't realize that she's nominating herself, and just keeps kind of going on, and to the point where Booby's telling her like, "No, you're telling, like, you don't want to go in," and she's like, "What? I didn't nominate myself. What are you guys talking about?" And Wes blatantly is like, "No, I think that's pretty firm of you nominating yourself. Like, that was pretty convincing." And
Yep.
it was just one of those, I wonder what the raw footage looked like, because that just seemed like a completely ridiculous conversation. Right? Like, I don't know what was going on there, but you had Casper, you had Booby, and you had Louise trying to, like, calm her down or make some sense, get her to make sense. And eventually, you're right, she just storms off. And yeah, so the plan at this point...
I think Hennessy, part of her problem is she's so set on, like, performing.
Yes.
That she can't just listen. And we saw this during the actual competition where she was just like constantly at them and like wasn't listening to what they were saying in response.
For sure.
Like at one point when she turned around, I was like, "Y'all dumb," and they're like, she didn't push hard enough.
Yeah.
Like it was like a 120-pound woman trying to push like a 200-pound man. She just couldn't.
No, totally. So we end up in the room, but before this happens, Louise decides that she's going to make sure that the stars are all on the same page, and that Booby and Booby and Casper realize exactly what's going on, and the fact that the stars need to vote as a pack, or else they will all be picked off. And this is where things get interesting, because obviously this episode started with Booby talking about how Cam was, one of his number ones, or I guess to use the terms that normally get used on the challenge, my number one female competitor. And so Booby was not going to say Cam's name, according to their earlier conversation. But the way that Louise left this open-ended with Casper and Booby was very interesting, because she made sure to say, "Oh, they didn't say who she was going to vote for." Do you know what I mean? They kind of just left it open so that it was just, "Oh, whatever you say, Louise, we're just going to follow you. We'll leave that to you. We trust you to make the smart decision."
She didn't get them on the same page. She got them in the same chapter.
Exactly.
Like, she got them close to... They really should have said, like, "I think we should vote for Cam," because then Booby could have been like, "I think we should vote for Tori," as an example.
Exactly.
And then because Cam and I have this deal, or whatever, and then away to the races.
But it was also smart because Louise knew what was going on. Like, she knew that Cam and Booby had this deal, quote, quote, air quotes. She knew that they had this kind of working deal, and she knew that, hey, the move is to get Cam out now before that bond strengthens even more, and then we might have trouble when we need Booby's vote later on down the line for something else, right? So they head into the nominations, and as mentioned, Brooke Hogan is selected, and now there's just open shade going back and forth, right? Because the stars are fully on board. Like, they know what's going on, and they're going to openly say what's going on. So Brooke gets put in, and then the vote goes down on the blue team, and Louise knows that it's going to end up being tied, right? But she doesn't know what the tiebreaker is. Nobody knew what the tiebreaker was.
Which was a gamble.
A huge gamble. Because that's what I was saying. At first, I thought that they would throw it to the other team, right? and the other team would
That's
get to
what I thought
decide
too.
who it would be. And then obviously we know already that the other team has more stars on it, so they would be putting in whoever they wanted to go in, right?
Yep.
Because despite Ashley's counting ability, right? What did she say? Like 8 plus 2 was 20?
I got 8 points plus 2 points, so pretty much 20 points.
Yeah. Okay. That was the thing that actually happened. But the funny part is, like, despite their math there, or Ashley's math in particular, the Stars do know that they have more people on their team, on the red team, than... Sorry, not the Stars. The Champs know that they have more people on their side than the Stars do on the red team. So if that did happen, like, that was a huge risk to take if you're Louise. But instead, John, what was the tiebreaker?
The tiebreaker was that whoever won the last elimination gets to break the tie, which was Casper.
Yes.
Here's an interesting curveball, though, that just occurred to me. What if it was Arian Foster who had won on the other team? Does that mean that a member of the other team gets to be the tiebreaker?
That's a very good question. Yeah, that's a very good question. I bet you this will come up again later on in the season. Also, my other question for you, John, when do you think they decided what the tiebreaker would be? And I'm talking about the producers. Because do you think they said, like, they decided the tiebreaker would be, like, they figured out, oh, well, it's better if it's Casper because that gives some more power to the Stars. And we kind of need the Stars to maintain some level of power because they're so afraid of what happened last season on Champs versus Stars, right?
Yeah.
So do you think they purposely said, oh, no, we can't let it go to a vote like we normally would because then it would still be the Champs being in power, so we need to come up with some other way to make it the Stars have the vote? Oh, how about we make it whoever won the last elimination?
Yeah, I think you're right that they saw how things were going to shake out. I mean, obviously they had a camera there when
yes,
Louise and Casper and Booby were discussing things. So I think you're right. I think it was like created that day.
Solid producering. Great producering there.
Solid producering. So we have, it does end up that Booby stabs Cam in the back, and that it's Brooke Hogan versus Cam, and there was a Chappelle Show moment. I don't know if you caught this.
Was it?
But Brooke Hogan, speaking of Cam, said,
"Oh yes,
her nickname says it all, Killer Cam."
Yeah.
I can't even Killer Cam. Like, she really emphasized the ER, and it's not. It's Killa. It's Killa.
So,
but Brooke Hogan was Killer Cam.
I'm so glad you brought this up because I definitely wrote that down too, and I was like, Killer Cam, heavy emphasis on the ER.
Killer Cam.
And I was like, do you think Brooke Hogan knows of Killa Cam or Cameron and the Diplomats? Do you think she's familiar? Like, is she old enough? How old is Brooke Hogan? I gotta look that up right now. I feel
she's in her mid-20s.
So she might not know of... She missed that Dipset wave for sure that happened in the mid-2000s. Like, she doesn't know of Joel Santana, right?
But no, there's no way. She's too young. She is now... She is older than I thought. She is 29 years old.
Oh.
I thought she was 25.
So 29 years old. Interesting. Cameron and the Diplomats, I don't know. I feel like maybe she should know. She should know maybe about...
Well, at the very least, she should know that, in a nickname setting, you would not say Killer Cam. Right? You'd say Killa. It's just I
don't know.
Right, what sounds tougher?
Killer Cam. Didn't she say, I don't want to get killed?
Yeah, I think she took it too literally.
Killer Cam. It's so good. It's so good. I enjoyed that a lot, and I was just I'm really confused now, and I want to know. People, let us know what you think, listeners. Do you think that Brooke Hogan knows she is familiar with Cameron and the Diplomats, or maybe you know what? We'll just tweet at her and ask her if she is familiar with Cameron and the diplomats? Because I really want to know that. Did she, like, was it just a slip of the tongue? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or does she actually think that it's Killer Cam?
I have to point out some foreshadowing in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
When Tori was wearing the dressed up as Hulk Hogan,
Which was horrible,
sorry, Tori.
by the way.
Yeah, I was just gonna say she did a terrible job. Like she was more Macho Man Randy Savage than she was Hulk Hogan, but it's still like she missed. She swung and she missed.
Agreed.
But I don't think Brooke liked that shit at all.
Yeah.
Like Brooke did not Brooke was polite about it, but did not
Agreed.
Kind of gave the half hug.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I totally agree.
Did not like it.
Totally agree. She did not look amused at all. They didn't have a close up of her laughing about it. In fact, it kind of looked like a weird edit, and then when it cut back to Brooke, her face was kind of red as if she was embarrassed. Which, I mean, I would be kind of embarrassed too. And I wonder if that is what leads to... Remember there's a scene in the trailer when she's talking about how her dad says that he's embarrassed? That can't be what he's embarrassed about, right? That would be kind of lame.
No.
Okay. Just checking.
Well, and how would they have... How would he know about it? Yeah, I mean, maybe he told her... But
maybe, I don't know.
Or sorry, maybe she told him about it, and he said, "Oh, I'm embarrassed." But I don't. I think she's just probably gotten that her whole life.
True. Also
is
true.
Probably had her fill.
Yeah.
And is trying to be her own woman.
Yeah, I mean, she was a singer or something, right? Wasn't she trying to be a singer at some point?
Yeah, she's a singer, and she was on Hogan Knows Best.
Reality show, yeah. And I think she got her own reality show after that, too, no? I think so.
She did.
Yeah. So she's been trying to make her own lane, and I get that. I totally get that, and it would be annoying. And again, it was a terrible impression. So
oh, yeah.
there is that part of it, too. So anyways, we end up heading into this elimination, right? I mean, we can skip. Cam is upset that Booby said her name, right? Because the vote came down to Booby. He obviously tied it up. And then, yes, as we mentioned, Casper then sends in Cam. Should Cam be mad at Booby Gibson? John?
I don't think so.
Right? I don't think so either. She should understand that he was blatantly put on the spot, and there's no way that he could go against the stars and save her, right? Because then he would have not only the stars going at him, but he would have... not only would he have the champs going at him because the champs are clearly trying to get out all of the stars, but he would also have his own stars against him. And on top of that, right? On top of that, it's not like Cam has a political pull on the champ side that she could try to save him. You know what I mean? It's not like she's as powerful as a Wes or as Ashley or someone who's been there for a while, right? So I don't know. I found it unfair that she was mad at Booby. To me, I'd be kind of proud that he learned the game that quickly, picked up on what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and it's he knows that it's kill or be killed.
Yes, exactly.
You think that Killer Cam would know that.
Right? But we head into an elimination. Brooke versus Killer Cam. And Killer Cam, as mentioned, has been in 3 eliminations in her rookie season on Vendettas. And so, who was your pick to win this elimination before it started, John?
I thought that Brooke was going to win for sure. Just because, once I saw what the competition was, Brooke is so much larger and, more muscular.
Yeah.
And I don't know how tall she is, but she looks like she could be 6 feet. She is a strong person.
Yeah.
And I just think, not that Killer Cam's not, fit and athletic, but just, it's a game where weight and power is everything.
Yeah. Is all about strength.
And, Cam's strategy early on of, taking the momentum and running with it was smart. She didn't quite execute it, but, you can only pull that trick once.
Yes. It's so true. And there's definitely a strategy to be used, but I think that once you realize that you're just stronger, right? Then you hold all the cards. then it's just easier for you to dominate and figure out exactly what you have to do. And yeah, I think it looked really easy. And it also looked kind of weirdly edited. Like, I don't know if it was because it took a while. I don't know if it's because, Brooke just dominated, but it just looked weird in editing, no?
Yeah, they flipped around and they relied really heavily on like one angle, like that sort of high angle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From the I guess it's a boom shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It was fine. Again, it was fun. Like I feel like these are the kind of competitions the challenge used to have. Like I don't want to say a decade ago, but maybe 5 years ago.
Imagine what that would have been like if it was if Hennessy was actually in there against Brooke. Like how unfair that would have been.
It would have been hilarious, not just because of the like domination, but because Hennessy would have been like screeching the entire way, right? No.
Yeah, it would have been really
I'm sorry, I can't do a Hennessy.
On the flip side though, like who wouldn't Brooke have just dominated in that? Do you know what I mean? And I feel kind of bad because, and I shouldn't feel bad because we're not like Brooke, I think, is just super strong, right? And she doesn't look like some female bodybuilder or like even a like diesel jacked female wrestler or anything like that. Like she still looks good and now I'm in my head and I'm overthinking it because obviously you can be super muscular and be attractive. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I am trying to say is she just like, I don't know who physically would be able to go up against her in that. And even if you open it up to, all regular challenge competitors, right? Like, could Laurel take her out in that challenge? Anissa would probably give her a good go, right? Like,
yeah, but there's not many. It'd be like Emily, Laurel, Anissa.
Yeah,
I think would give her a run. She's 5'9". I looked it up.
Okay, but she's super physical too. Like, I wonder, like, obviously, if you did any form of wrestling, obviously, that comes with some strength and agility and all that stuff, right? Like, I'd be interested to see her on like an actual season of the challenge. Like, I don't know if she'd do that because obviously that's a lot of time to commit from whatever her normal regular career or life is. But yeah, no, I was into it. I thought it was a dominating performance, but it made me wonder, like, do the champs going forward, do you try to put Brooke in because who's really going to take her out?
I mean, Louise Hazel maybe could, depending on the competition.
Yeah, you gotta hope it has nothing to do with strength.
Yeah.
Super interesting interesting stuff, John.
Yeah. I have to say, I'm selfishly glad that Cam lost. And bear with me on this.
Okay.
I'm glad because I want her and Leroy to live happily ever after. And I didn't like Booby sliding in there and maybe disrupting their budding love affair.
Do we even know if that's a thing still? Do we know that? I haven't done a social media deep dive in a while, so I'm not really sure what's going on in the land of Roy Lee. But yeah, I mean,
I think they are still getting along.
Okay, fair enough.
I have to put something out there. You touched on it. And listeners, spoilers.
Dun, dun, dun.
If you want. But one of the stars from Champs vs. Stars is rumored to be on Final Reckoning.
Ooh, I like that. I like it.
Should I say the name?
Sure, why not?
Apparently Josiah. So, like, I mean, he's kind of in there because of Big Brother,
Yep.
but also Champs vs. Stars.
See, I was going to say earlier, right, when we were talking about who's been active, like who we've seen a lot of camera time so far, I was going to say that he's been kind of quiet where, as I told you guys last week, when he was on Big Brother, he was not quiet. There was nothing quiet about him at all. So I was wondering if like maybe he learned from his big brother experience and so kind of toned it down a little on this season. But I'm going to guess that if he's on the next season of the challenge, I'm going to guess that he made a pretty good impression. And by good impression, I mean good TV on this season of Champs versus Stars. But I mean, that's interesting. I was wishing you were going to say Selita, but sure.
No. I imagine that Selita, all in all, is not going to enjoy her experience on the show. Because she at one point, you know what, when Cam got sent home, she said, you know, that's what you get for trying to use your sexuality.
Oh, yes.
Which I have to say, I didn't love. She is a model. So, you know, I know there's a lot more to modeling than just sex appeal, but you're a woman who's built your career on your looks.
Yes.
Maybe ease up on Cam, who I think had a, like, genuine, like, vibing. Like, I don't think that Cam was purely manipulating Booby. I think she was...
Yeah, I think that's why she was upset. She was upset because she thought they, like, genuinely were getting along. I don't think it was just solely a gameplay thing, nearly as much as, like, she thought they were actually getting along. And she took his word for what it was, but then he realized, hey, I'm here to actually play.
I agree. So, I gotta ask you, who killed it for you this week?
To me, it's super easy. I think it's Brooke. Just because obviously we know she won the challenge, but I think that she showed leadership here, right? Because I think she's at the forefront of the Stars team along with Louise and, let's say, Casper, in terms of realizing what the champs are trying to do in terms of trying to manipulate the entire game and take them all out. And I think she showed leadership in the beginning where she was talking to Selita and trying to, like, calm her down and when the whole Kayla thing was going down. So I'm going to give her some credit for that. I also think she did a good job in the actual challenge. And if you watch closely, she was one of the only people that understood, you know, when she was being pushed, she sort of leaned forward to give more momentum. And then as she was getting closer to someone else's pod or puck or whatever it was called, she would lean back to kind of give it a little more momentum to, like, rock it. You know what I mean? To like she understood the game more. And I know I'm overanalyzing a grown-ass shuffleboard game, but the main point of what I was trying to say was she was right when they were having their deliberation that she thought she could have been the MVP, and she very easily could have been the MVP. Like, I don't think she accounted for 20 points, but neither did Ashley, right? So, yeah, and then obviously a dominating performance in an elimination. All in all, I'd say from front to back, a good episode for Brooke Hogan.
I hear what you're saying on Brooke, but for me, it's got to be Louise Hazel.
Okay.
Because
I love Louise, by the way.
I love Louise. I'm glad she's back. I would love to see her on a regular season of the challenge. I would love that. And I really liked her conversation with Wes afterwards because it was so, like, friendly. But for me, it's Louise because the game within the game is making sure you've got numbers on your side.
Yep.
And she rallied the troops. She made it happen.
Very
so
true.
To me, I hear what you're saying about Brooke, but Louise is the one that's leading the charge for the Stars. So shout out Louise Hazel.
Yes. I will not disagree with you there, John. No disagreement here.
So I think that's all we have, unless there's something else on your mind.
No, I don't think so. I think that's all I got. That's all I got so far. Overall, though, 2 episodes into Champs versus Stars season dose. Thoughts?
I love it. I like the sort of change of pace, the lighter, airier. Like the listeners are even going to notice. Like our episodes of You Killed It are probably going to be shorter in general while we do this, just because it's like popcorn. I mean, we used this last time. It's like sorbet. It's the refresher. I quite enjoy it. What do you think?
I enjoy it a lot too. It's a different change of pace to the normal season, as you said. I like the influx of new personalities and new people to get used to get to know. A lot of very wide-ranging personalities, which helps. And there's enough familiar faces, but they're not even doing anything yet, right? So I find that part of it super interesting because to me, that says that there's going to be a lot more that happens later on, right? Like whenever the champs have to start turning on each other, that's going to get interesting, right? As the numbers start to dwindle on the star side, obviously that's going to be a lot more interesting. So I'm entertained so far, 2 episodes in. I like the new personalities. I like the challenges they've had so far. I like the job by the producers to switch up the game to make it a lot more even on both sides. So all in all, I'm in.
Yep.
Good job.
Yep, I agree. People can find us on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. We're all over the place. Mm-hmm. I'm on Twitter at jchidleyhill. And if you want, I don't know, a glimpse into my life, you can also follow me on Instagram. Same handle, at jchidleyhill.
And you can find me at Shell Alexander on Twitter and at Sheldon Alexander on Instagram.
And, the usual forewarning, we're both probably going to be talking a lot about the Toronto Raptors and maybe the Toronto Maple Leafs, depending on how things go tonight.
You mean a big Leafs win. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, calling it big Leafs win.
I'm confident.
Anyway, you're confident.
Yeah.
Do you believe?
I definitely do. Leafs wave.
Until next week, this was You Killed It.
You killed it. Just like the Leafs will tonight.